Hashtag Gay Miraculous. Chapter 2. Felix looked up when the door dramatically opened. Valerie Crespo. She was a great actress, but he never saw her at any of his mother's castings. She was very well known for her starring role on a fairly popular dramedy that had recently ended. Her agent was worried she would most likely be typecast. She needed to land a part drastically out of her comfort zone. If she didn't want to become completely irrelevant, she needed this part more than everyone else. With a compact in one hand and her overly complicated latte in the other, she walked down the hall. She scanned the room and frowned. She noticed Felix and walked over to take a seat next to him. She sat close to him, and he leaned away a little bit. Some nobody had been sitting there, but a glare from her had the seat cleared quickly. She had to do something to mess him up. Violet Silva seemed to have integrity, but he was still her son. She lit up and smiled.
Felix Silva, I have been dying to meet you. You're just one of those people that I know I would get along so well with.
She set her compact in her lap and got her cell phone from her purse. Everything happened so fast. Felix was definitely not prepared for Hurricane Valerie. He was wide-eyed from the selfie, flash on, and she planted a kiss on his cheek without asking first. He had to blink a few times and shake his head before he could answer. Hi? He hoped his practiced charm would mask his uneasiness, and he scooched away as much as he could in the chair. Valerie, you've wanted to meet me. Wow, that's really awesome. Your acting is on another level. I'm nowhere near as good as you. It was just something to say, a half-truth. Felix wasn't anywhere near as mean as the backstabbing child actors he'd grown up with, but he couldn't care less that Valerie Crespo wanted to meet him. He did appreciate her acting and could learn a lot from her, but she was too much for his mild personality. Still, he had no reason to be rude or snippy to her. I didn't expect to see you here. Honestly, he hadn't expected to see her at any of his auditions. Valerie nodded.
Yeah, I've been really intimidated by your mom, honestly. Getting to work with her would be a dream. So I'm facing my fears today. If we get cast together, oh, what a dream!
Congratulations on facing your fears. That's really great. Felix would have told her that facing his mother wasn't so bad if he had believed that even a little bit himself. He was always nervous when he had to audition for her, despite all the practice he'd had. Maybe if he landed just one role, his confidence would improve. He didn't even need to land a role. If his mother just gave him any other reason than "you're not ready" or "you're not mature enough to handle a project like this," then he'd feel validated. She checked herself in her compact and started telling him about how he needed more of a public presence.
You need to start coming out more. There's no bad publicity, and I haven't seen you at any of the parties.
No such thing as bad publicity, huh? Tell that to my mother, he muttered. In his mind, the only reason she kept Felix out of the public eye as much as she could was so he wouldn't ruin her reputation. I don't really have time for parties, he shrugged. His mother made sure of that, keeping his schedule full. There was a girl seated further down and across from them. When Valerie made eye contact with her, she waved and looked so happy to see her. Her countenance fell when Valerie shook her head and sipped her latte. She leaned over and whispered to Felix.
But not her parties.
She had done nothing wrong, but Valerie had taken her under her wing for a month or so, when the girl beat her out in a crime drama 3-episode deal. She was dead to Valerie. Felix's eyes followed Valerie's line of sight to the girl across from them. He smiled and waved to her just as she was looking crestfallen. But I'm sure her parties are fine. Felix had never been to a party outside of the galas his mother hosted, or she otherwise forced him to attend. Still, he was certain that a party was hard to mess up, and Valerie seemed unfairly critical. I've never seen him more relaxed, Alden commented to Tori. Let's see how he does when he's face-to-face with Felix. He smiled to himself at the notion of his hopeless friend. When they reached the lobby doors and could hear just how many people were behind them, no doubt all beautiful people here to audition for Violet Silva, he had his doubts that this was their best plan. He believed in Micah, but he wasn't exactly confident that he could hold it together around a crowd like this. Micah walked into the room where everyone was waiting. Lots of people were dressed plainly like he was, but they were all so beautiful and they all seemed so confident. No, I am not psyching myself out today. Yeah, they're all gorgeous, and maybe Felix has dated half of them, or maybe someone even more beautiful, but that's just fine. They're confident, and so I'm going to be inspired to be like that. He took a breath and gave Felix the coffee and bag. Huh, I figured you could still use a snack for your audition. He smiled. The door opening distracted him. Were more people showing up to audition? Oh. Micah, Felix smiled. Thank you, that was really nice of you. He was always too nervous to eat before an audition in front of his mother, but he took the snack anyway. Before he had the chance to introduce Valerie, she was standing and doting on Micah. Valerie's eyes widened. His dark hair and bright eyes went perfectly with her curly hair and brown eyes. She stood up to introduce herself.
Valerie Crespo. Such a pleasure to meet you.
Micah Ansel Park. Nice to meet you. I watched your show with my parents. I liked it a lot.
Yes! And he is the perfect height to be my arm candy at premieres.
She wore heels everywhere to test just that.
Wow. Micah Ansel Park, are you in anything I'd have seen?
He chuckled. My starring role as barista is pretty popular. My parents run the shop a few blocks away. He was hoping he could stay this confident once she was done and he was alone with Felix.
Wow, I got this latte from there. You must have been in class. But now I definitely need to make more stops there. It tastes amazing, and I'm very difficult to please.
She giggled and squeezed his arm.
Decent muscles, good to know.
This actress is really attentive to fans, jeez. Micah looked over at Felix and smiled softly. He didn't have anything to say, he just wanted to look at him. Felix stood up too. Micah and I are classmates, he commented. Valerie was certainly forward. Micah looked a little uncomfortable at best, but Felix wasn't exactly sure what to do about that. Valerie smiled and stayed close to Micah.
Well, you have to wait until I'm done with my audition, Micah Ansel Park.
She bat her lashes at him. Micah scratched the back of his head and nodded. Right, well, I was hoping to maybe stick around, and, He looked at Felix and blushed a bit before looking away. After enough time had passed, Violet stepped out. She didn't want the breaks to seem conspicuously long, just long enough to frustrate. She immediately noticed Felix and frowned. Whose fault was it this time, Nicholas or Georgina? It doesn't matter. They'll both be reprimanded. She noticed him talking to that boy. She recognized him from winning that writing competition a few months ago. He always seemed to keep popping up and causing trouble. Valerie Crespo. She didn't think much of her. Always popping up in tabloids, so desperate for attention. And that was definitely something she could work with. Her assistant stepped out with a clipboard. Violet stopped him. No need. She's not right for the part. She pointed at the nobody who'd been sitting next to Felix earlier. You, come on in. She turned and headed inside. Felix stared at Micah with wide hazel eyes as he stumbled through his words, waiting for him to get out what he wanted to say. He was interrupted by his mother stepping into the room. He wished he could have hidden, but it was too late for that. They made eye contact. She frowned, and his eyes dropped to the floor, feeling immediate shame. There was no way she'd let him audition now that she'd seen him here. Not to mention that she'd turned down Valerie Crespo without even giving her a chance. Valerie glared and marched right into the room.
Excuse me, I have been waiting. Do you know who I am? And you won't even let me audition?
Violet took the time to sit down and cross her legs before responding. I am well aware of who you are, and as I said, you aren't right for the part. She sipped her tea and sighed. Now perhaps, when you can behave like an actress, I'll reconsider, but as it stands, you are simply a child who got lucky. Your last 3 roles outside of that little show of yours weren't memorable, and frankly, I wasn't that impressed with everyone's friend in the first place. She looked back at the nobody. You may begin at any time. Valerie felt tears coming on, but only stormed out, clutching her compact. She hid in an elevator and checked her makeup. As her brooch lit up, Violet grinned to herself. The boy auditioning felt a bit confident at that. Of course, he most likely wouldn't get the part either. Violet saw 3 more auditions before demanding another break. This time, though, she entered an empty room. An Akuma fluttered and landed on Valerie's compact, turning it black. Ah, prima donna. How would you like to play the role of a lifetime? Everyone will see how bright you shine. All I ask is for Scarabean Cat Noir's Miraculous. Valerie's eyes shut tight as she clenched her compact and let Lady Moth's magic transform her.
I won't disappoint, Lady Moth.
Felix sat back down, feeling rather defeated when his mother called up a boy who had been sitting next to him, an actor he'd never even seen before, over her own son for the next audition. He sat with his elbows resting on his knees, posture slouched and unaware that Valerie had stormed into the room after his mother. He only looked up when he realized Micah was speaking to him again. Micah smiled at Felix. So, I know you're probably busy, but I was hoping I could... He turned as he heard various people down the hall being zapped. Prima Donna was sauntering down the hall and attacking everyone in sight. They became her paparazzi and followed her, flashing their blinding light.
Now just where is my leading man?
She cooed as she set her sights on Micah. Micah frowned and grabbed Felix's waist, shoving him in some room. Take cover! He called out before running down the hall. I have to find somewhere to transform, but Prima Donna is right there, and that means Lady Moth can see. What am I gonna do? Felix thought that was rather chivalrous of Micah. But more importantly, it was rather serendipitous for Felix. I didn't even get to try the croissant, Plag complained, flying out of Felix's shirt. We'll have snack time later. Plag, claws out! With Plag powering his Miraculous, he transformed into Cat Noir, and very stylishly at that. He burst out of the room to find the lobby empty. He'd heard Prima Donna say something about finding her leading man, and by the way Valerie had been acting, he assumed that meant Micah. He had to keep Micah safe. An actress chasing her fans. That's new, Cat Noir quipped as he jumped in front of Prima Donna, instantly blocking her attempt to turn him into her legion of paparazzi. She quickly overpowered him, but he was still able to dodge by jumping behind her. Cat Noir made eye contact with Micah. Go! But just then, the bright flashes of cameras erupted in his face. Ah! He rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand. Those lights are bright, he said, blinking rapidly to try and regain his vision.
Some people just aren't cut out for stardom, kitty cat.
Prima Donna was closing in on Micah.
Now you get the honor of playing my leading man.
Sorry, I don't think you'll work well together, Cat Noir interjected, vaulting over Prima Donna. He grabbed Micah's hand and raced down the hallway. Kitty! It's a good thing he managed to get here so fast. But now he was protecting him. He took the signal from him to go when asked and tried to get out of sight. Those lights were intense. He needed to help, and quick. Cat figured the only safe place to hide Micah was back with his parents. Prima Donna would be too preoccupied trying to find Felix's mother. Oh no, his mother. To leave and find Micah. He had to hurry. Once outside, he grabbed Micah around the waist. Hold on tight. I'll take you back to your place. Wait, my friend! I have to make sure he got out! Before Micah could wriggle out of Cat Noir's grasp, he was already being carried home. Cat assured Micah that Felix was safe, and for now that would have to do. For whatever reason, Prima Donna was after him. He wondered if there was some way to use that to his advantage. The ride back home was different. He'd never been on that side of things before. He helped tons of civilians get home, and this must have been how it felt. Wow, I never really noticed the view before, he muttered, catching himself and chuckling. I mean, I never thought about it. You and Scarabee must be lucky. Micah was usually running to the next baddie and never really got to see, never thought to. Cat Noir was always so happy and carefree, he probably took the time to actually enjoy being a hero. Once Cat set him down, he smiled. Thanks for saving me! He stood there a bit anxiously. He was just another fan of the duo, and fans always wanted the heroes to stick around, but he needed Cat to get lost already so he could actually help him. He gently put Micah down on the rooftop and perched himself on the railing. You'll be safe here. Scarabee and I will take care of things. Prima Donna was looking for Violet Silva, and her purse had magically grown large enough for her to fly in.
I'll show you just how an actress behaves.
Micah watched as she flew from afar, still zapping people. You better get going. I'll stay put. He climbed back down into his bedroom. The second they were alone, Tiki flew out of his sweater jacket.
Some people just don't take rejection well.
Micah frowned. We'll just have to let her down easy then. Tiki, spots on! He called out and transformed from the scruffy-haired, bashful Micah to the poised and confident Scarabee. He raced through Paris, leaping across rooftops and using his yo-yo for leverage whenever he got the chance. Where are you, Scarabee? Cat mumbled as he fought off paparazzi and extras, the lights from the cameras too bright for him to aim efficiently. He couldn't see when Prima Donna was getting too close for comfort and about to zap him. Luckily for him, Scarabee had the habit of showing up just when Cat Noir needed him. He caught Cat with his yo-yo and pulled him out of the way. Are you all right? He asked as he shielded his eyes. Those bright lights made it really hard to hit her. He tried to aim for the cameras to break some. The cameras only seemed to multiply. Cat was pulled out of the line of fire by that familiar yo-yo string around his waist. Suddenly at Scarabee's side with the polka-dotted hero, Cat leaned on his staff as casual as ever. I'm fine now that you're here, Bugaboo. He managed to catch up with Cat right as Prima Donna was about to zap him.
Oh, Bugface, just make this easy and hand over your Miraculous. I don't need to fight you. I just need my adoring fans, my leading man, and to show Violet how irrelevant I can make her.
Scarabee couldn't see her hands, but whatever she was holding was what Cat needed to break. But if she got angry and zapped them, they'd be cast as her extras forever. He needed to keep her calm. I could help you with some of that. I'm a fan. Me and Cat would love to be your leading men, I'm sure. He looked at Cat with a wink. Cat looked at Scarabee when he started talking, clever as ever. And that wink made his heart skip a beat, but he tried not to show it and instead stared at Scarabee dumbly.
Ha! Nice try. But my leading man doesn't hide behind a mask. Once I tear this house to shreds, I'll go pick him up from in front of that cute little cafe. Fans, to the house!
They turned their cameras to the house and the bright flash centered. From where she was posted, Lady Moth's eyes widened. If the house got destroyed? No! She couldn't allow that. Scarabee wasn't sure who was in the mansion and couldn't risk it. Wait! Your leading man! We'll get him. Just look gorgeous and get ready. You can perform for all of Paris. It'll be great. Lady Moth usually told her victims not to listen to Scarabee's traps, but she had something far too precious in the house. Cat Noir had nodded in agreement to Prima Donna that they would play her leading man. He frowned when Prima Donna didn't take the bait. The lights from her paparazzi turned and illuminated a familiar house, Felix's house. He stifled any reaction. Besides, Scarabee would fix things in the end, so there was no need to worry. His mother wasn't in the house, and he was fairly certain that Nicholas and Georgina were out of the house. Scarabee, though, seemed concerned. Concerned enough to give the villain Micah? Cat trusted Scarabee, but he was confused about the plan. He had just gotten Micah safe, and now they were going to hand him over? Following Scarabee's lead, Cat leapt onto a building so they could go get the leading man. What exactly is your plan, Honeybee? We aren't really going to hand over that boy to her, are we? Scarabee took a breath as they landed on the building. He had to think of what to say. He would never just volunteer a random civilian, but this wasn't random. At most, he was just inconveniencing himself. He looked at Cat Noir with a soft smile. He used to make a bigger deal over the pet names, but Cat wasn't stopping, so he got used to it. And he had a nickname for him, too. I know that this is a lot different than what we usually do, but I'm sure he'd be happy to help. He put a hand on his shoulder and smiled reassuringly. Have I ever let you down yet, kitty? He got his yo-yo ready for the next jump. So you go to the cafe and talk to the guy, then bring him on the date. She shouldn't have the lights on for that. I have to take care of something, but I'll be back by the time you cataclysm whatever she was holding. He took off. I believe in you, kitty! He has to take care of something. Scarabee saying he believed in him really took the sting out of the secrets Scarabee kept from him. Scarabee always seemed to be keeping secrets. Sure, they had to keep some things from each other, but Cat felt like he was as open as he could be. Meanwhile, Scarabee always seemed to be hiding things. It made it hard to trust him sometimes. But that typically melted away in just a few words. He watched Scareby go before he headed off towards Micah's cafe.